Hello, how's everybody doing today? Hope y'all doing well. I'm just straightening up this room a little bit. I was peeing out all day yesterday and watching TV in between food comas, that is. And I've decided that I'm going to be doing a huge fill up the biggest bag I have full of clothes from the closet at the beginning of every month when I have laundry detergent, and take care of that every month, and then wear whatever I have in there until everything is out of the closet and washed and dried. Ugh. And I'm doing pretty damn good because it's a lot less in there. And I found my other thing too, so yay. My heck we know. I guess the spirit finally returned it. That being said, I'm going to be working on my, I'm going to do a number on that thing. And I know I should be going to the grocery store right now, but I am waiting until 7 because anytime between 6 and 7, those, the self-checkouts are closed. The store opens at 6 and then self-checkout opens at 7. Now this table a little bit. Work on my dumpster. And now there's I need to. And then I need paper. Always gotta have a clean work surface. I work on it. Now, the fives are down. Like there's a five that hadn't been down. How did I miss that five? Oh, that's five. How did I miss one single five? There. The twos and the threes are all bundled up together. No, we're going to the fours today. So I want to make it 2 of those things of all kind of it. Yes, I use my scissors to cut my pizza. I don't have a pizza slicer yet. And this is how far I've gotten so far. And it's 7 o'clock. Well, once I reach the hour mark on this stream, I'm going to be going to the grocery store to get some things. I like to focus on the numbers that are pretty easy because they're all in one place before I focus on the ones that are all over the place. Mixed in. I like to start out at the ends and work my way in. Number 4 should be pretty easy. This is all in one spot. And this force can be real quick. Oh, it smells so fruity. Either my vape or my cleaning solution. My cleaning fluid is supposed to be cinnamon apple spice scented. That's probably what I'm smelling. Every time I clean something, it smells like apples. I bet I can get all these floors taken care of in less than an hour. I've always enjoyed watching grass. Hell, when I was a little kid, art class would always be my favorite. Art therapy, anything where I can express myself through art. I had to go on YouTube, even though this thing came with the instructions. I had to go on YouTube to figure out how to do this because I could not find the seal that goes. There's a plastic that you peel before you get started because the whole surface is sticky. I couldn't, for the life of me, find that to peel. But I sat here for about an hour trying to peel that shit off. And I'm glad I finally figured it out. Because I was about to go to the store and get some double-sided sticky tape and put that down on here. Lucky for me, I did not need to do that. I would have been wasting money on something I didn't need at all for it. Something that, like, yeah, that would have been probably the most pointless thing I've ever done. So, this, I'm gonna have me a Dr. Pepper. Just do one number a day. And I guess tomorrow I'll be working on nice reads. So this is a great way to pass the time too. Very relaxing and grounding. If you have like a very chaotic lifestyle, just spend an hour a day doing something like this. It'll keep you grounded. Dedicate an hour a day to something like color by number or word search. That 1 hour where you can just relax and take a break from the world. And yesterday was wonderful. I didn't even read any of my messages. I went live, but as far as I'm concerned, that doesn't count because I don't have my chest turned on, and I won't have my chest turned on until I take care of the thing. So, at least you guys can chat amongst yourselves because I found out that even though the chats are hidden from me, you can still see that. So, there's that. soon as I finish this, that's going to be going on my Mamma Mia wall. I'll also figure out how to polish these up that are covered in wax to get the gunk out of some of them. My foot's almost done. I'm glad because I'm starting to get pins and needles in my hand. I'm holding this for so long. I'm looking forward to the feeling returning in my hand right here. It's all pins and needles. I guess there are storms outside. It would be light right now, but storming. 6 more for us to go. 5. So I'm a little hungry too. done, the fours, yay. There we are. Now tomorrow I do number 3. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna give myself a half hour to do the 3s, I think. Since we're only on a half hour mark. The 3s look pretty simple. Threes and 2s are mixed in a little bit. Ah, what the hell, why not? It's raining and I haven't got anything else to do other than get some hot dog buns, ketchup and mustard, and pasta sauce for my stuffing. So why not? I do have all of this. I'm just gonna take. Why the fuck's my remote sitting in this box? I will simply take the tray out of this and do the 4s in case I missed any. Yeah, the way I said I do number 3, I won't be confused about why they mix number 3 and number 2 up. And blend those colors. So I'll get that knocked out and then I'll get ready to go to the store. Because I'm not going to be doing anything when I get home other than peeking out and watching TV. Although that is something I'd like to be in a hurry to do. I think that there's a lot of 3s. Guess I gotta be careful with them. I hear thunder. Do you hear that? That thundering thunder. Well, yes, it is thunder. In case, let us pray. I don't believe in superstitions. You pray. King Kong vs. Godzilla in 1969. I know that movie inside and out. I can recite that movie word for word. A little hidden talent I have. Without it being on. I don't even have to have it on TV or watching it. I can literally pull the entire script out of from that movie out of my head because I watched it so much during my life. It's been one of my favorite movies ever since I was 5 years old. More of the things in heaven and earth ratio that are dreamt of in your philosophy. This is the United Nations reporter Aaron Carter with the news. Large icebergs have been breaking out. Yeah. I am not going to do that the whole movie. I called the plant somewhat. So far, our early tests have shown remarkably good results. We are pleased. My notes confirm this. I will, however, need more berries to continue with the test. But because of the god, the natives absolutely refuse to give up any more than just a few handfuls. How strange. Would you show us exactly where the island is on the chart? Of course. Just before returning home, I touched at Bougainville, here in the Solomons. And about 52 miles south from there was a small island called Faroe Island. There, gentlemen, is where I found the red berries and the strange god. Oh, strange story, Mr. Blackhill. I find that hard to believe. Sounds like a fairy tale, Doctor. Does a giant monster exist here? Since you asked my opinion, my answer is yes. A giant monster. Come on, we must really need publicity. It's heads, so get a monster. Taco, not a monster, really. Yes, a monster. Come on now. I want action now and no arguments. Come on, think. Who out there is watching our show? Nobody, because it's dull and boring and without imagination. Pacific Pharmaceutical demands publicity. You two are going to Pharaoh. Find me a genuine monster if he exists or not. Here, steak's ready. Are you hungry? Hungry, I'm starving. Here. Hey, that's not fair. What? How come your boyfriend's steak is bigger than your brother's? Sakura, stop it, will you? Fujita, eat, honey. I made the steak for you. What's so interesting? A story about a submarine. Submarine? Yeah, I can recite the whole fucking movie. King Kong vs. Godzilla. Off the top of my fucking head. The whole goddamn movie. Never thought I'd be doing that on the live stream. Never thought I'd be doing that in public, period. Depending on what's going on when I get back to the store, I might even go live and do my twos. And I believe there's only there's only one on here, which is the Dolphin's Eye. Who knows, I might actually finish this today. Can't believe I'm almost done the threes already. Holy shit. I guess the more I get used to it, the quicker I go. So it also helps that I have an actual tray today and not the S end of my container that my screws came in. I'm not MacGyvering it right now. Ah, I might actually finish this up before I finish the stream. I'm thinking about it. Then I gotta figure out where to put it on my Mamma Mia wall. Yes, it's supposed to be a coaster, but it's going to be wall art. Put on my Mamma Mia wall. The rest are gonna be twos. So I might as well. But before I start on the twos, I want to just have a little bit of a Dr. Pepper break. And stop talking about number two because I'm gonna be messing up and putting one of these threes on a two. Yay, number threes are done. Cool. I think I've earned myself a nice glass of Dr. Pepper. As soon as I find the zipper. There. Now, all I need to do are the twos next. I'm going to do that right after I have a little sugar break. This over here. And see it all with all precious mercy things. Over here. that's good shit. I like that. I might as well have something to munch on too. Now, put on some Darwin's too. Might as well. Yeah, might as well do a 2-hour stream.
I'm up.
Oh my god, there's a 2-hour special of death. Oh my god, yes! I won't be doing shit for the next 2 hours.
Death is a certainty for us all, but some people meet their end in ways so bizarre, they seem almost unreal. From freak
Hallelujah!
accidents to inexplicable twists of fate, these deaths will leave you questioning what's possible. Could fate be playing a cruel joke, or is something more sinister at work? Get ready to hear the strangest and most mind-boggling stories in 2 hours of the most unusual deaths in human history. Convicted in 1981 for a heinous crime, Michael Anderson Godwin's life unfolded through a series of
I saw that
consequential
one
events,
yesterday.
culminating in a death that echoed the very punishment he once faced. Yet
The
managed
dude
to
made his
escape.
own electric
Some
chair
say
while he
his death
was
a case of
waiting
poetic
to us
justice,
to
but what happened to the
be in
28-year-old?
the electric
In
chair.
1978, Michael Anderson Godwin, who also went by the name Michael Anderson Sloan, was serving time for a robbery conviction when he was allowed temporary work release. During one of these periods, he committed a brutal crime. The victim, 24-year-old Mary Elizabeth Royam, was found in her West Columbia apartment, where she had been assaulted and struck repeatedly with an electric iron. The cruelty of the act and its devastating aftermath were shocking. When the case went to trial in 1981, Godwin was convicted and faced the grim sentence of death by the electric chair, then South Carolina's standard method of execution. However, 2 years later, in 1983, his sentence was reversed. A retrial found him not guilty of part of the original charges, and the death penalty was commuted to life imprisonment. This reprieve marked what many would consider a monumental twist of fortune. Escaping the electric chair was no small victory. Perhaps not wanting to waste his chance at life, Michael Anderson Godwin made efforts to change. Over the following years, he exhibited what prison authorities described as model behavior. He pursued his education, earning 2 college degrees and nurturing aspirations of working with young people upon his potential release. Yet his story took an abrupt, tragic turn that underscored the irony of life and death. In March 1989, Godwin was alone in his cell at the Central Correctional Institution in Columbia, South Carolina. He was sitting on a metal toilet, completely naked, attempting to repair a pair of malfunctioning earphones connected to his television set. Due to prison regulations, only earphones were allowed, and Godwin, lacking proper tools, decided to use his teeth to strip the insulation from the wires. Unbeknownst to him, his method of improvisation would prove fatal. The metal toilet he sat on, combined with his contact with the exposed wires, created a conduit that led to an intense electric shock. The current surged through his body, amplified by the metal beneath him, a conductive surface, and stopped his heart on the spot. The electrocution left severe burns on his mouth and tongue, a cruel irony for a man who had narrowly escaped death by electric chair years earlier. Godwin was discovered lifeless during a routine cell check, with the coroner's report confirming accidental death. The irony of Godwin's end was impossible to overlook. Here was a man who had spent years under the shadow of an electric execution, and just when he thought he had escaped that fate, he died through electrocution of his own making. His death was an incredible twist. For some, this outcome might have appeared as poetic justice, considering that an electric iron was the weapon used in the crime.
There ain't no better justice
than
poetic.
For others, it was a tragic conclusion for a man who, despite his dark past, had shown signs of reform and a desire to contribute positively to society. If anything, his death was proof that fate, and maybe uninformed decisions, proved the limits of human control. On July 2nd, 2011, Felipe Cantos, a 55-year-old man from Parrish, New York, set out to participate in a rally, a protest against mandatory helmet laws. Known as a seasoned rider with 3 decades of experience, Cantos joined approximately 550 other participants in an event organized by the Onondaga chapter
I know what this is going on already.
Towards Education, or ABATE, an organization that advocated for the voluntary use of helmets while opposing state-enforced mandates, had held this rally annually for 11 years around the July 4th weekend. Cantos was adamant about his position, but in an unexpected and ironic twist of fate, he died proving the opposite of his beliefs. At 55 years old, Felipe Cantos was an avid sportsman who worked in construction. He would often participate in activities such as archery, hunting, and fishing. It's safe to say he was an active man. Even more, he was a motorcyclist. Although he was not an official member of ABATE, Cantos chose to join the rally that day to show his support for what he and many others saw as a symbol of personal liberty. In 2011, New York was one of 20 states that mandated helmet use for all motorcyclists. Cantos didn't agree. In 2011, statistics from safety organizations such as the Governor's Highway Safety Association underscored the effectiveness of helmets in preventing fatalities. They stated that helmets meeting federal standards could reduce the likelihood of death by more than 40% in the event of an accident. Nevertheless, for many motorcyclists, the decision to wear or not wear a helmet was intertwined with notions of freedom and personal responsibility, values that Cantos held. July 2nd, 2011 was a hot, sunny day in Onondaga. The rally started with a sense of shared purpose. Riders were informed that wearing helmets was optional. After all, they were advocating for the freedom to choose. Cantos chose not to wear a helmet. The ride was about 30 miles long from Syracuse to Lake Como near Cortland. As the procession of motorcycles wound its way along the roads, the unexpected occurred. Cantos, riding a 1983 Harley-Davidson, encountered sudden difficulties. According to reports, his motorcycle applied the brakes, leading him to lose control. In a split second, he was thrown over the handlebars and struck the pavement, unprotected. The force of the impact resulted in severe head trauma, and Cantos was pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital. The attending police and medical experts revealed a sobering truth. Had Cantos been wearing a helmet, his injuries would likely not have been fatal. The accident was the only recorded fatality in the 11-year history of the Onondaga ABATE protest rides. This fact deepened the shock and sorrow that rippled through the community, highlighting the unpredictability of life and the profound consequences that can arise from simple choices. Cantos' death came as a true and powerful example of the risks associated with not wearing helmets. However, ABATE's stance on helmet laws reflected their belief that personal choice should outweigh government mandates. Despite this tragedy, leaders within the organization, including Christine Rathbun, president of the Syracuse chapter, affirmed that the accident would not alter their commitment to advocating for riders' freedom of choice. Rathbun expressed that while they mourned the loss of Contos, the underlying principle of individual rights remained unchanged. Philip A. Contos, a man who valued his freedom and joined a rally to support it, met his end in a manner that underscored the very risks he accepted by choosing to ride without a helmet. What was meant to be an uneventful overnight flight from Moscow to Hong Kong became one of the most haunting aviation disasters in history.
Oh boy.
The result of a reckless decision.
Well,
Aeroflot Flight 593 departed Sheremetyevo International Airport on March 23, 1994, carrying 75 people aboard an Airbus A310, bound for Kai-Tak Airport. Operated by Russian International Airlines, the flight included mostly Russian nationals, with about 30 airline employees and their families, as well as several businessmen from Hong Kong and Taiwan. On board were Captain Andrei Danilov, First Officer Igor Piskaryov, and Relief Captain Yaroslav Kudrinsky, an experienced pilot with over 8,900 flying hours. Kudrinsky had also brought along his 2 children, Yana and Eldar, on their first international trip, a decision that would prove catastrophic. It was shortly after midnight, roughly halfway through the flight, and the plane was cruising over Siberia. Captain Kudrinsky invited his 2 children into the cockpit. He wanted to let them experience flying. At 12:43 a.m., Yana, age 13, was seated at the controls while Kudrinsky subtly adjusted the autopilot's heading to give her the illusion of turning the plane. She had no real control. A few minutes later, Eldar, aged 15, took his turn in the seat. What followed was a sequence of devastating mistakes. By moving the control stick for over 30 seconds, Eldar unknowingly partially disengaged the autopilot. The crew, unfamiliar with the aircraft, didn't notice the change. And then, the aircraft began a slow but steady roll to the right. As the bank angle increased, the pilot started noticing something was amiss. In just seconds, the aircraft tilted beyond 45 degrees, then past 90, an angle the Airbus A310 was never meant to sustain. Gravity forced the plane into a rapid descent, and the increased G-forces hampered the crew's movements. The autopilot, only partially engaged, attempted to correct the climb and maintain altitude. This caused the plane to stall, and finally the autopilot disengaged entirely, leaving the crew with full manual control. Kudrinsky managed to return to his seat and told his children to return to their seats. The situation was dire. The pilots tried to correct the mistakes, but it was no use. The plane began spinning. They recovered briefly, just long enough to attempt another correction, but the plane started spinning again. By then, the aircraft had lost too much altitude.
No, thank you.
At 12:58 a.m., 16 minutes after Yana first entered the cockpit, Aeroflot Flight 593 slammed into the Kuznets-Galato mountain range at roughly 160 miles per hour. All 63 passengers and 12 crew were killed on impact. No distress call was made. The landing gear was off. All passengers were secured in their seats, having been prepared for an emergency, though they had no way of knowing the true extent of the danger. The wreckage, strewn across a remote Siberian hillside, was discovered 2 days later, and flight data recorders were recovered soon after. In the aftermath, Aeroflot initially denied any breach of protocol in the cockpit. But when a Moscow-based magazine published transcripts from the cockpit voice recorder, the truth emerged. The final moments captured chilling warnings from Kudrinsky to his children, including a desperate plea for Eldar to move to the back of the cockpit. He attempted to soothe them with reassurances that everything was normal, when in fact the situation was out of control. Investigations found no technical faults with the aircraft. Analysts concluded that had the crew allowed the autopilot to correct the aircraft's initial dive without interference, the plane would have stabilized and the crash might have been avoided. The accident served as a grim reminder of the consequences of disregarding cockpit protocols. For the families of the victims, especially those who had placed their trust in an experienced crew and a reputable airline, the emotional toll was immeasurable. In the years that followed, mourners from Russia, China, and Taiwan visited the crash site, leaving flowers, handwritten notes, and fragments of memories scattered across the desolate hillside where 75 lives had ended in silence. What began as a seemingly harmless act of late-night fun at a Southeast Texas marina quickly spiraled into a devastating tragedy. Wanting to have a little fun, Tommy Woodward shrugged off clear warnings and entered dangerous waters, literally and fatally, setting off a chain of events that left witnesses traumatized and a community reeling. It was the 3rd of July, 2015. 28-year-old Tommy Woodward had recently relocated from St. Louis to Orange, Texas, alongside his twin brother. The two were trying to rebuild their lives and had found work at a nearby shipyard. Known around Burkhart's Marina as a regular face, Tommy was outgoing and carefree. Every Thursday night, he could be found playing pool and shuffleboard with friends, enjoying the relaxed atmosphere of the marina's small restaurant that served burgers and beer. But on that particular night, Tommy's usual routine took a dark turn. Sometime after midnight, Tommy arrived at Burkhart's Marina with a young woman, his girlfriend. Despite the late hour and multiple warnings, he declared his intention to jump into the bayou that ran along the property. Staff and witnesses told him not to, pointing out the large, recently spotted alligator and a posted sign that read, "No swimming, alligators." The sign had only gone up days earlier, after employees noticed a predator estimated to be over 11 feet long circling the area. Ignoring both the sign and the
And there you
warning,
have it. You
Tommy
got
removed
it.
his
You
shirt
can
and
buy an
collar,
alligator.
uttered a dismissive remark about the alligators, and leapt into the dark water. According to authorities and witnesses, the attack happened almost immediately. He surfaced once, yelling at his girlfriend to get out. Then he was pulled under, resurfaced face down, and was dragged beneath the surface again by the massive alligator. His girlfriend, unharmed, had either jumped in after Tommy or had been in the water already, according to conflicting witness accounts. Either way, she made it to safety, shaken and screaming that an alligator had taken him. Witness Michelle Wright, an employee at the marina and friend of Tommy's, rushed to the edge of the water and spotted his body briefly with a flashlight before it disappeared once more. The horror was overwhelming, and for those who saw it happen, it was an image they said they would never forget. Emergency services responded around 2:30 a.m. Officers with the Orange Police Department and a Texas Parks and Wildlife game warden searched by boat for hours. Around 4:30 a.m., Tommy's body was recovered near the bayou's edge. He had suffered severe trauma to his left arm and upper chest. Authorities believed he ultimately drowned, but portions of his body were later found inside the animal, confirming the deadly force of the attack. The alligator had vanished during the initial response. Just days later, a local man known as Bear admitted to trapping and killing the creature using chicken as bait. The reptile, a 400-pound, 11-foot male, was found near the marina and shot dead. Texas Parks and Wildlife officials later confirmed that Tommy's remains were inside the animal. Though Bear violated hunting laws by taking matters into his own hands, he was only issued a warning and not charged. According to officials, unprovoked alligator attacks are extremely rare in Texas, making this the first fatal incident in recorded state history. However, those weeks had seen increased alligator activity due to heavy rainfall and the animal's nesting season. Alligators, territorial by nature and opportunistic predators, become particularly aggressive during that time of year. Tommy's family and friends were left devastated, struggling to process a preventable tragedy that unfolded in front of their eyes. The marina staff, especially those who had warned him moments before, remained haunted by the outcome. His twin brother, who had moved with him for a fresh start, was left to identify his body and face a future forever altered. Though the alligator was eventually captured and killed, it brought little solace. One decision to defy nature's dangers had cost Tommy Woodward his life. It began as a reckless thrill, an attempt to chase a kind of adrenaline rush that had been inspired by online videos. But for Francois Hallet, what started as a dangerous stunt quickly turned into something far more tragic. An irreversible moment that left his friends in shock and a community in mourning. At 22 years old, Francois was described by those who knew him as fun-loving and adventurous. The young man was part of a tight-knit group of friends in Quebec who had recently taken a growing interest in a viral stunt known as couch surfing. Inspired by videos posted online, the activity involved sitting on a couch or sofa tied to the back of a moving vehicle, often a truck or van, and being dragged at high speeds along rural roads. For Francois and his friends, it became a way to break the routine, to feel alive, and to chase a thrill without fully considering the consequences.
Couch surfing is when you're a nomad and you stay at somebody's house
that had been mounted on top
for
of
a
a
night,
sled
and then
and
you
tied
go
to
to
the back of the
another
van.
house that you
The group of friends had
believe me,
chosen
I
country
used
road
to
in
do
St.
couch
Benjamin,
surfing.
a rural area located south of Quebec City, where they believed traffic would be light and the setting ideal for another round of what had become their favorite activity. Driving the van was 21-year-old Alex Laba, a friend of Francois and a regular participant in these outings. By all accounts, the group believed they had figured out a way to make the stunt safe enough to repeat regularly, drawing false confidence from past experiences where nothing had gone wrong. But everything changed that day. As the van picked up speed, the sled and sofa setup trailed behind, with Francois holding on, seated and exposed. But at some point during the ride, Alex lost control of the van. The sled swung violently, and the couch carrying Francois veered into the opposite lane. It all happened in an instant. An oncoming vehicle struck the sofa directly, the impact catastrophic. Francois was thrown and left critically injured on the roadside. Emergency services rushed him to the hospital, but the severity of his injuries proved too great. He was pronounced dead shortly after. In the immediate aftermath of the crash, Alex fled the scene.
Right.
He was later arrested at his home in St. George. According to police, he was in shock, overwhelmed by the sight of his friend lying lifeless on the road. A mutual friend of both men, Jan Laflamme, later said that Alex's flight was not about avoiding accountability, but rather a moment of panic. He described Alex as distraught, struggling to process the horror of what had just occurred. Alex was arraigned in court in Saint-Joseph-de-Beauce and faced multiple charges: dangerous driving causing death, criminal negligence causing death, and fleeing the scene of an accident. For the group of friends who had once embraced couch surfing as harmless fun, the tragedy forced a reckoning. They openly acknowledged that what once seemed like an exciting way to pass time was, in truth, a deadly risk. Jan, who had often joined the stunts, admitted they were drawn in by the appeal of the videos they saw online. Francois is believed to be the first person to die while attempting the viral activity, a grim milestone that underscores the lethal consequences of imitating dangerous stunts for entertainment.
Back in the 90s, when I was a kid, you hear people say, don't try this at home.
The Coney Island State
Now everybody's trying
a
everything at
57-year-old
home.
woman named Debrina Kawam was asleep on a subway train. The station was quiet, the train sitting idle. But what happened next would shock the city and make national headlines. Debrina had once been full of life. In her high school years in Little Falls, New Jersey, she was a cheerleader and waitress, known for her energy and charisma. She was voted most punk and had a $1 million smile. But as time passed, life took a different turn. She struggled with homelessness and alcohol addiction, living in shelters across New York City. Despite this, people still remembered her. One of them was Mark Montaigne, a former high school friend. He recalled her as the life of the party, someone who was always smiling. He never imagined that years later she would become the victim of such a horrifying crime. That morning, Debrina was alone, dozing off on the subway. At 7:30 a.m., a man approached her. He was later identified as 33-year-old Sebastian Zepeda Khalil, an undocumented immigrant from Guatemala. He had previously been deported in 2018, but had managed to return to the U.S. Without warning, Zepeda Khalil pulled out a lighter and set Debrina's clothing on fire. The flames spread quickly, engulfing her as she slept. The scene was horrifying. A bystander caught it on video. Zepeda Khalil calmly walked away and sat on a bench watching as
He set that bitch on fire.
Witnesses were frozen in shock. Security footage later showed police arriving, but one officer simply walked past Debrina without helping. This response would spark outrage when the video surfaced.
What the fuck?
An MTA worker finally grabbed a fire extinguisher and put out the flames, but it was too late. Debrina was pronounced dead at 7:48 a.m. from severe burns and smoke inhalation. For over a week, authorities struggled to identify her. They used advanced fingerprinting techniques, and on December 31st, 2024, her identity was finally confirmed. The news hit hard, not just because of how she died, but because of the person she had once been. Debrina had dreams. She had once wanted to be a flight attendant. She had a magnetic personality, charming customers as a waitress at Perkins Pancake House. Even in tough times, she stayed connected to her past. A former neighbor recalled seeing her outside her mother's house, unaware that her mom had moved. Her tragic death shocked old friends and sparked debates about public safety and immigration policies. Many believed this crime could have been prevented. Zepeda Khalil was arrested the same day after students recognized him from the video and tipped off the police. He was found with a lighter in his pocket. When questioned, he claimed he had no memory of what happened, saying he had been drinking. Whether this was true or an excuse remains unclear. He was charged with first-degree and second-degree murder as well as arson. If convicted, he could face life in prison without parole.
Pardon me, goddamn.
Beyond the legal case, Debrina's death raised painful questions. How had she ended up in such a vulnerable position? Her friends and family were left wondering how someone so full of life had fallen through the cracks. It also highlighted the dangers faced by people experiencing homelessness. They are often at risk of violence, and Debrina's case was a tragic example of that reality. As for Zepeda Khalil, his trial will determine his fate, but the damage has already been done. Those who knew Debrina will remember her not for how she died, but for who she was, a bright, energetic woman whose life took a tragic turn. Her story is heartbreaking. It's not just about a horrific crime. It's about a person who was once loved, once full of promise, and who, in the end, was left unprotected in a world that had forgotten her. It was a quiet Monday in 2023 in Harlan, Kentucky. Michael Wayne Alford, 59, was outside his home tending to a few tasks. He was moving an old bag of potting soil, unaware that inside it was a hidden wasp nest. As soon as he disturbed it, the wasps swarmed aggressively. Within moments, Michael was stung multiple times. The venom spread quickly through his body, making it difficult for him to breathe. His daughter, Marlana Ledford, heard the commotion and rushed to his side. Realizing the severity of the situation, she immediately began CPR. Shortly after, Michael's son, Mitch, arrived and joined her efforts, desperately trying to keep their father alive. Despite their efforts, the wasps continued to attack and Michael's condition worsened. Knowing time was running out, the family called 911. Paramedics arrived quickly and took over the life-saving efforts. But the venom had already taken a serious toll. Michael's breathing became weaker and he eventually lost consciousness. He was rushed to Harlan ARH Hospital, but just under 2 hours after the attack, he was pronounced dead at 5:50 p.m. The coroner later confirmed that respiratory failure caused by the stings had taken his life. It was a sudden and devastating
I've never been stung by a bee before, because I run like hell when I see
the
one.
loss had been. It's a big burden on us, my mom and the whole family, he said.
They've never been given the opportunity
Michael was
to
more than
sting
just a
me.
father. He was a devoted grandfather, a man who loved simple pleasures like four-wheeling, playing the piano, and collecting knives. He was also deeply rooted in his faith, known for his humble and reserved nature. His passing left a deep void in his family. His wife of 41 years, Chichi Margot Hughes Alford, was left without her lifelong partner. Their 3 children and 11 grandchildren were left grieving a sudden and tragic loss. Michael had pre-existing health conditions, including a heart condition, which may have made the reaction to the venom even worse. Still, no one could have expected that something as routine as moving a bag of soil would lead to such a tragedy. While it's rare, cases like Michael's do happen. Between 2011 and 2021, there were 788 reported deaths from bee, wasp, and hornet stings in the U.S., averaging around 72 per year. Most people recover from stings, but for those with allergies or underlying health issues, the effects can be deadly. Wasps and hornets in particular are more aggressive than bees and will attack in large numbers if they feel threatened. Statistics show that men are more likely to die from insect stings than women. The most common cause of death is respiratory failure, which happens when the venom triggers severe swelling, making it impossible to breathe. Once this reaction starts, it can become life-threatening within minutes. Experts advise that if you encounter an aggressive swarm, the best thing to do is move away quickly and seek shelter. Swatting at the insects or staying in the area can make them more aggressive. The University of Arizona's College of Agriculture and Life Sciences warns that disturbing a nest, even unintentionally, can lead to serious consequences, as seen in Michael's case. In the aftermath of his passing, Michael's family struggled with both grief and financial burdens. His daughter, Marlana, started a GoFundMe to help cover funeral expenses. Since Michael didn't have life insurance, the family was left to manage the costs on their own. By Thursday, donations had reached just over half of their goal, offering some relief in an otherwise painful time. The funeral was scheduled at Evart's Funeral Home, where family and friends would say their final goodbyes. As they prepared for the service, they were left with the heartbreaking reality of losing someone they loved in such an unexpected way. Michael's passing is a reminder that danger can come from the most unexpected places. A simple act like moving a bag of soil led to an irreversible tragedy. For those who live in areas where wasps and other insects are common, awareness and caution can make all the difference. For Michael's family, no amount of warning could have prepared them for this loss. They are now left to grieve the man who meant so much to them. A father, husband, and grandfather taken too soon by an accident no one saw coming. It was May 2nd, 2018. Prabhu Bhattara, a middle-aged taxi driver from Odisha, India, was driving 2 customers home from a wedding when he saw something he considered worth it.
I'm going to pause this because I would like to get to the store before it gets too damn hot outside. Although it's raining, let me check. Yeah, it's pouring outside. So, I want to just save that for when what's on TV. I'll save that for when I get back because I want to pick out when I watch that. So I want to finish this. Actually, I might just have that on as background noise, maybe, while I finish.
Inspecting closer, an injured bear, Prabhu made a fatal decision that would soon become a grim reminder of the dangers of human recklessness in the presence of wildlife. What began as a
There,
routine
yeah.
drive home from a wedding ended in tragedy when an ill-fated attempt to capture a photograph cost him everything.
Yeah.
On the evening of the incident, Prabhu was transporting passengers in his SUV when he stopped in a forested area of the Nabarangpur district to relieve himself. As he stepped away from the vehicle, he noticed a bear near a pond. The animal, believed to be injured, was resting, possibly in distress. Rather than keeping his distance, Prabhu made the fatal choice to approach it, determined to take a selfie. His passengers, who watched from the vehicle, realized what Prabhu wanted to do and warned him against getting too close. But Prabhu had already decided. He chose to ignore their protests, and he moved toward the bear, phone in hand. He was ready for a selfie with the injured creature. What followed was swift and brutal. The bear, sensing a potential threat, reacted with its natural fight instinct. As Prabhu attempted to position himself near the animal, he slipped. In that instant, the bear seized the opportunity and lunged. With powerful swipes of its claws, it dragged him down, biting and clawing at him as he struggled to escape. Witnesses, including his passengers, could do nothing but watch in horror. Some attempted to intervene from a distance, shouting and throwing objects in a desperate attempt to distract the bear. Even a stray dog tried to save Prabhu. The dog rushed at the predator, barking and attempting to bite it, but the bear remained undeterred. Within moments, Prabhu Batra succumbed to the attack, while bystanders filmed the attack. His injuries were severe, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Authorities later arrived to secure the area, but there was nothing that could be done to save him. The bear had to be tranquilized in order for Prabhu's body to be retrieved. It is believed that the bear involved in the attack was a sloth bear, a species known for its aggressive nature, especially when dealing with humans. Sloth bears are native to the Indian subcontinent and are one of the most dangerous bear species when it comes to human encounters. Unlike other bears that typically avoid confrontation, sloth bears are known to react defensively, often attacking humans who venture too close. Their aggression is largely due to their instinctive response to perceived threats, much like their reaction to natural predators such as tigers and leopards. Due to their habitat overlapping with densely populated areas, sloth bear attacks in India are not uncommon, with many cases resulting in severe injury or death. Prabhu's death was the third selfie-related fatality in the Odisha region within months, underscoring the growing trend of risky behavior in pursuit of social media content. Previous incidents involved individuals attempting to take selfies with wild elephants, with similarly fatal consequences. India has recorded the highest number of selfie-related deaths in the world, with many incidents
It's a wild
occurring in
animal. What the
dangerous
fuck do you
locations
think
or
it is?
involving
Getting your
risky
picture taken with
interactions
Goofy at
wildlife.
Disney World?
The incident serves as a tragic warning about the consequences of disregarding safety around wild animals. Prabhu's decision to approach the injured bear, despite clear warnings and the visible signs of danger, ultimately cost him his life. His death is yet another reminder of the fatal consequences of underestimating the instincts of wild animals. 2024, Cynthia Nayeli Higareda Bermejo was a young model seeking to capture a thrilling and unusual photo, but her ambition and her passion for modeling cost her everything. What was meant to be an artistic and striking photo shoot turned fatal within seconds, leaving witnesses in shock and raising serious concerns about the dangers of taking risks, even in pursuit of art. At 30 years old, Cynthia Nayeli Higareda Bermejo was a Venezuelan model who had been living in Tlajomulco de Zuniga, Mexico. Passionate about photography and modeling, she often took part in photo sessions designed to create dramatic and visually striking images. On this particular day, she had planned a shoot that would incorporate a fast-moving train as the backdrop, hoping to capture a
train
sense
as
of
the
power and
backdrop.
emotion
Yep,
in the
that's
final
dumbass
image.
right there.
The photo shoot took place in Zacoalco de Torres, a town near Guadalajara in western Mexico. Accompanied by a photographer and several other individuals, Cynthia stood near the railway tracks as they set up the shot. The idea was to position her close enough to the passing train to create a dramatic effect without actually stepping onto the tracks. As the locomotive approached at more than 180 kilometers per hour, she continued to pose, believing she was at a safe distance. But Cynthia was gravely mistaken. As she posed, the train thundered past. It all happened in a flash. The sheer force of the train's movement created a powerful air current. This sudden pull was strong enough to catch hold of Cynthia's clothing, dragging her violently under the train. The impact was immediate and devastating. Cynthia's team could do nothing but watch in horror as the accident unfolded in a matter of seconds. To try and help her would have been a death sentence. They quickly called for help. Emergency services arrived quickly, but there was nothing they could do. Cynthia had died instantly, her life cut tragically short by her passion. Her body was found
Might as well
just a few
keep this on
centimeters
as
from the
background
tracks,
because
alongside a
there's a
tripod
thunderstorm
and other
going out.
photography equipment.
A lot of times
Authorities
it knocks
immediately
out the
launched an
power here.
investigation, collecting
So,
statements from
might as
those
well
present
do
at
it
the
all at
shoot
once.
to piece together the sequence of events leading to the tragic accident. Jalisco State
Because if the car
Prosecutor
gets
Joaquin
knocked out,
Mendez Ruiz
live
confirmed
stream
that
will be
Cynthia's
over.
death appeared to be a terrible accident. Based on witness accounts,
Won't have
it
any
was determined
TV
that
on.
Cynthia had miscalculated the
TV
safe
listen to
distance
them.
required to avoid the train's powerful slipstream.
So, might
The
as
force had
well.
been strong enough to entangle her clothing, pulling her into the locomotive's path and causing fatal injuries. Her remains were taken from the tracks and sent for an autopsy before being handed over to her family for burial. The investigation into the circumstances surrounding her death remains ongoing, but authorities have not indicated any foul play. Cynthia's death serves as a grim reminder of the dangers associated with taking risks near railway tracks. While photo shoots in unconventional locations have become increasingly popular, particularly in the age of social media, they come with serious hazards. Her tragic passing is not the first of its kind. Around the world, accidents involving individuals attempting to take dramatic photographs or selfies near moving trains have led to similar fatal outcomes. Despite repeated warnings from railway authorities and safety campaigns emphasizing the dangers of standing too close to tracks, many continue to underestimate the risks. What began as an attempt to create a compelling image ended in a devastating loss. Cynthia's story serves as a cautionary tale about the fine line between artistic ambition and personal safety. Her death highlights the critical need for awareness and responsibility when working in hazardous environments, ensuring that no photograph is ever worth the ultimate price. On October 26, 2024, Amanda Gallagher was doing what she loved, capturing moments of exhilaration and adventure, when an unimaginable accident occurred. The 37-year-old professional photographer from Wichita, Kansas, was at Cook Airfield in Darby, documenting skydivers as they boarded and landed from their jumps. Her passion for both photography and skydiving had led her to this moment, but in a tragic turn of events, a routine day at the airfield ended in devastation. Amanda had built a reputation as a talented and creative photographer. Friends described her as kind, adventurous, and full of life, always eager to embrace new experiences. Recently, she had discovered skydiving and quickly became enamored with the sport, sharing her excitement online. Just weeks before the accident, she had completed her first solo jump, calling it the best feeling ever. Her newfound love for skydiving complemented her photography, allowing her to capture breathtaking images of others experiencing the thrill of freefall. On that fateful afternoon, Amanda was at Air Capital Drop Zone, an event held at Cook Airfield, documenting skydivers as they prepared for their jumps. She had been on board a Cessna 182 photographing a group of jumpers. After they exited the aircraft, she remained inside and rode the plane back to the ground. Once the plane landed, the next group of skydivers began boarding. It was during this transition that the accident occurred. The Cessna 182 remained grounded but was still running, with its propeller spinning. According to the Air Capital Drop Zone, Amanda, with her camera raised to take a shot, moved forward and stepped past the wing, an area she should not have entered. While focusing on her photography, she unknowingly stepped back and made contact with the moving propeller. The consequences were devastating. Amanda was gravely injured. Emergency responders were called to the airfield at approximately 2:40 p.m. Amanda sustained critical injuries and was quickly transported to Wesley Medical Center by air ambulance. Despite efforts to save her, she succumbed to her injuries. Her death left the skydiving and photography communities in shock. Friends, colleagues, and fellow skydivers took to social media to express their grief, remembering her as a talented artist and a warm, gentle presence.
How can somebody not feel a propeller going on a plane?
Expenses, raising thousands of dollars as people came together to honor her memory. The accident also led to discussions about safety procedures at airfields. Moving into the path of an active propeller is a well-known hazard, and the incident raised questions about how such a tragedy could have been prevented. While some mourners focused on Amanda's life and legacy, others empathized with the pilot who had been at the controls of the aircraft, recognizing the trauma of witnessing such an event. Authorities, including the Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office, the Federal Aviation Administration, and the National Transportation Safety Board, launched an investigation into the circumstances surrounding Amanda's death. Statements from the Air Capital Drop Zone emphasized that stepping in front of the wing was a violation of basic safety protocols, though it remained unclear what had caused her to move in that direction. Though her life was cut short, Amanda left behind a legacy of passion and creativity. Her photographs captured moments of joy, freedom, and adventure, expressions of a life well lived. Those who knew her continue to remember her not only for her talent, but for her warmth, kindness, and fearless pursuit of the things that made her happiest.
It was October 10th, 2014 in Real Wales when 75-year-old Vera Williams, who lived at Least Tudor, faced a tragic chain of events that began with a simple breakfast. That morning she was eating toast when a sharp fragment became lodged in her throat, causing immediate discomfort. However, it seemed like a minor issue, which began a devastating turn of events. Vera, who had a history of severe heart disease, visited the accident and emergency unit at Ispiti Gland CLW, reporting pain in her throat. She was seen by junior doctor Noor Ismail, who assessed her condition and found no signs of serious illness. Without further tests, Vera was sent home. Over the next 2 weeks, the pain in Vera's throat persisted, but she didn't immediately seek further medical help. On October 23rd, she returned to the hospital and was examined by Dr. Adedeji Adeleke. She mentioned pain in her neck but didn't explain that it had been continuous since her initial visit. Without understanding the full scope of her symptoms, Dr. Adeleke suspected an infection, prescribed antibiotics, and discharged her the following day. The real issue, however, remained undetected. On October 24th, Vera's condition worsened dramatically. She began coughing up blood and was rushed to the hospital. Doctors conducted a thorough examination, including a CT scan, which revealed that the sharp piece of toast had torn her esophagus, leading to a rupture, a rare and serious condition known as an esophageal perforation. This injury had caused blood to leak into her intestines, explaining her symptoms and recent bleeding. Esophageal tears are exceptionally rare, occurring in about 3 cases per million people. Unfortunately, the delay in identifying the problem left limited treatment options. Due to Vera's severe heart condition, surgery, the most effective solution, was deemed too risky. Her medical team focused on managing her condition, but despite their efforts, Vera's health declined rapidly. She passed away a few days later. Vera's death led to a review to determine if earlier detection or intervention could have changed the outcome. The inquest highlighted the challenges faced by the medical team. Dr. Marion Hughes, a senior consultant in emergency medicine, reviewed the case and stated that the doctors acted appropriately based on the information available at the time. She noted that esophageal tears were so rare that most doctors wouldn't suspect them without clear signs. With nearly 40 years of experience, Dr. Hughes admitted she had never encountered such a case. However, the inquest also highlighted systemic issues in the hospital's operations. At the time, Ispiti Gland CLW used paper records, which made it harder for doctors to track patients' medical histories. Coroner Nicola Jones suggested that if electronic records had been in place, Dr. Adeleke might have been better informed about Vera's earlier visit. This could have raised suspicions about a more serious issue. Still, it's being determined whether, even with better records, the outcome would have been different, given Vera's pre-existing health problems. The case of Vera Williams is a heartbreaking example of how an everyday activity, like eating breakfast, can unexpectedly lead to severe consequences. Her story also highlights the importance of clear communication between patients and doctors. If Vera had mentioned the ongoing nature of her symptoms during her second visit, it would have led to more thorough investigations. Ultimately, her death was caused by a rare and unforeseen medical condition. While the doctors involved acted based on the information they had, the tragedy underscores the need for improved systems to ensure patients' histories are accessible and considered during treatment. It was July 20th, 2022, in Mumbai, India, a city teeming with life. For 27-year-old Rekha Nishad, life wasn't without struggles, but she faced them with resilience. She lived in a modest home in Malad West Pascal Wadi area with her husband and brother-in-law. The family led a simple life, managing the everyday challenges of urban living. For weeks, their home had been plagued by a persistent rat problem. Determined to address it, Rekha came up with what she believed was an effective solution. She injected poison into a few tomatoes, intending to use them as bait for the pests.
And then they must eat
Rekha
them.
returned home after a tiring day. Hoping for a quick and comforting meal, she prepared instant noodles. Her favorite TV show played in the background as she cooked, providing a rare moment of relaxation. Distracted by the show, Rekha accidentally picked up one poisoned tomato and added it to her noodles. Oblivious to the danger, she stirred the pot and finished cooking. Rekha sat down to eat, unaware of the mistake. After her meal, she began to feel unwell. At first, she thought it was an upset stomach, perhaps from something else she had eaten. However, her symptoms rapidly worsened, with intense nausea and severe discomfort setting in. Her husband and brother-in-law soon realized the seriousness of her condition and rushed her to Shatabdi Hospital. Despite the doctor's efforts, the damage from the poison was too extensive.
Yep, she's
Rekha's
unpoisoned
health
herself.
deteriorated
Wonderful.
rapidly, and on July 22nd, just 2 days after the incident, she passed away. Her sudden death left her family devastated. The police launched an investigation into the tragedy. Rekha had managed to explain what had happened before her condition worsened.
Why not
She told
try
authorities
calling
that
the
she had
orchid
poisoned
man
the
instead of
tomatoes for the
poisoning
rats
yourself
and
with your
accidentally
tomatoes?
used one
Huh.
while cooking. The
Don't
police
know.
found no evidence of foul play and
Sounds like a
concluded
good
that her
idea to
death
me.
was a tragic accident. The case was closed with an accidental death report. This heartbreaking incident highlights how quickly a simple mistake can lead to catastrophic consequences. It is a caution about the dangers of handling toxic substances at home. Just a month later, Mumbai saw another similar tragedy. On August 13th, 24-year-old Kajol Pawar, who lived in Andheri East's Sakinaka area, accidentally consumed rat poison, mistaking it for medicine for a stomachache. Kajol was home alone when the incident occurred. Realizing her mistake, she called her mother, Ananda Gavane, for help, explaining her symptoms and pleading for assistance. Her mother and brother rushed to her side and took her to a nearby private hospital. However, her condition required specialized care. 2 days later, she was transferred to Hiranandani Hospital, where doctors discovered severe liver damage caused by the poison. As her health continued to decline, Kajol was moved to Kem Hospital in Parel for further treatment. Despite the medical team's best efforts, Kajol's body couldn't recover from the internal damage. 6 days after the incident on August 19th, she passed away. Her husband, Abhishek Pawar, who had been on a trekking trip at the time, returned to the devastating news of her death. The police confirmed that Kajol's death was also accidental, with no signs of foul play. Like Rekha's case, her passing was a grim reminder of how dangerous toxic substances can be if handled carelessly. These two incidents revealed the severe risks of keeping hazardous materials at home and the devastating consequences of even a moment's distraction. Both Rekha's and Kajol's stories emphasize the need for caution and awareness when dealing with such substances, as even the best intentions can lead to tragic outcomes.
It's July 2019 in Erzurum, Turkey. 24-year-old Zafer Kuzu had recently been convicted of causing harm to another person. Instead of prison, he was sentenced to community service, something that, while inconvenient, wasn't a severe punishment. But for Zafer, even this was too much. Determined to escape it, he came up with a reckless plan, one that would ultimately cost him his life. Zafer didn't want to complete his sentence. Instead, he convinced himself that if he were injured badly enough, he could avoid it altogether. His idea? To stage an accident that would send him to the hospital. It wasn't a well-thought-out plan, but it was one he was willing to go through with. He wasn't alone. Two of his friends, an 18-year-old known as FY and another friend called FYT, agreed to help. The plan was simple but dangerous. Zafer would strap 2 pillows to his back to soften the impact, and one of his friends would shoot him with a shotgun at close range. The hope was that the blast would leave him injured, just enough to land him in a hospital bed, but not enough to cause real harm. But things did not go as planned. A shotgun doesn't fire a single bullet. It shoots multiple pellets at once, spreading out as they travel. Even with pillows as makeshift protection, Zafer was putting himself in serious danger. When FY pulled the trigger, the force of the blast tore through the fabric, completely bypassing the so-called padding. The impact was devastating. Zafer collapsed in pain. His friends, realizing the situation had gone horribly wrong, panicked. They rushed to help him, trying to get him medical attention, but it was too late. Before they could even leave the house, Zafer had succumbed to his injuries. Authorities were called to the scene shortly after. When police arrived, they detained both friends. FY, the one who fired the shotgun, was immediately arrested, while FYT was taken into custody for questioning. The shotgun was seized, and Zafer's body was sent to a forensic institute in Istanbul for an autopsy. During the investigation, details of the bizarre plan emerged. It became clear that Zafer had believed this was a way out of his punishment. Instead, his attempt to escape responsibility had led to an irreversible outcome. In court, FY faced legal consequences for his role in the incident. He was charged and placed in custody while proceedings took place. Meanwhile, FYT was released on bail, but remained under investigation. Zafer's story left many in shock. It was hard to understand why he would go to such extreme lengths to avoid something as minor as community service. His decision to stage an injury had not only failed, but had taken his life in the process. For his two friends, the reality of what had happened weighed heavily. What had started as a foolish plan had turned into something far more serious. They now had to live with the knowledge that their involvement had contributed to a tragic loss. Zafer's death was an unfortunate reminder that reckless decisions can have permanent consequences. He had sought a way out, but instead he had created a situation with no way back. His story, though unusual, serves as an example of how desperation can push people to make choices that lead to disaster. December 12, 2021, a quiet Sunday afternoon in Jaipur, India. Mohsin, a 29-year-old man from Uttar Pradesh, had been living in the city for 2 years with his partner and her young daughter. But this wasn't a typical relationship. The woman had left her husband and eloped with Mohsin, cutting ties with her past life. Since then, her husband had been searching for her, determined to find her and their child. That day, his search came to an end. The husband arrived at the apartment where Mohsin and his wife had been living. What exactly was said inside remains unclear, but the moment Mohsin saw him, he panicked. For 2 years, he had been avoiding this confrontation, and now, with nowhere to hide, he made a desperate decision. Instead of facing the situation, he ran to the balcony and jumped from the 5th floor. The fall was devastating. Mohsin landed hard, suffering critical injuries. His partner, who had witnessed everything, immediately rushed him to SMS Government Hospital, hoping he would survive, but the damage was too severe. That night, Mohsin succumbed to his injuries. The next day, his body was sent for a post-mortem examination before being handed over to his family. But the story didn't end there. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the woman and her husband disappeared. No one knew where they had gone, and authorities were unable to track them down. Their sudden vanishing only deepened the mystery surrounding the case. Investigators determined that Mohsin's reaction had been driven by fear. Rather than facing a confrontation, he had acted on impulse, making a choice that ultimately cost him his life. In the days leading up to the incident, Mohsin and the woman had moved into a new apartment near NRI Circle, hoping for a fresh start. But whatever peace they had found was short-lived. Police confirmed that the woman's husband had never stopped looking for her. When he finally found her, things took a turn no one had expected. Instead of a conversation, fear and panic took control, leading to a tragic end. Mohsin's family was left in shock. They struggled to understand why he had made such a desperate choice. Their grief was compounded by the unanswered questions surrounding his final moments. Meanwhile, authorities continued searching for the woman and her husband, but their whereabouts remained unknown. Mohsin's story is one of fear, impulsive decisions, and an unresolved mystery. His attempt to escape a difficult situation only led to devastating consequences. And with the key figures in the story now missing, the full truth may never come to light. 4th, 2012, at the Pittsburgh Zoo and PPG Aquarium. 2-year-old Maddox Lamar Durkosh was visiting the zoo with his parents, Jason and Elizabeth. The family stopped at the African Painted Dog exhibit, a popular attraction featuring a raised viewing platform where visitors could look down into the enclosure. While designed to provide a good view, this platform had risks, especially for small children. Wanting Maddox to see the animals better, Elizabeth lifted him onto the 4-foot-high railing. Despite posted warnings about safety, it was common for parents to hold their kids up for a better look. As she held him, Maddox lost his balance and slipped from her grasp. He fell 14 feet, missing the safety net below, which was only meant to catch small objects, not a child. He landed in the middle of the enclosure, right among the 11 wild dogs. The situation turned horrific almost instantly. The animals reacted to Maddox's fall, and despite zoo staff responding quickly, they were unable to reach him in time. A police officer fired a shot at one of the dogs in an attempt to stop the attack, but it was too late. Maddox had suffered fatal injuries. A veterinarian on the scene confirmed that there was nothing that could be done. The incident left everyone in shock. The exhibit was immediately closed, and the zoo contained the remaining animals. In the aftermath, the Durkosh family was devastated, and the tragedy sparked both legal and emotional battles. Elizabeth faced harsh criticism for lifting Maddox onto the railing, but authorities ultimately decided not to press charges. Allegheny County District Attorney Stephen A. Zappola Jr. ruled the event as a tragic accident. Still, the family pursued legal action against the zoo, arguing that it had failed to address safety concerns. Documents revealed that the zoo had known about the dangers of the exhibit since at least 2006. Staff had previously observed parents holding children over the railing, raising concerns that an accident could happen. However, no changes had been made. Despite this, the Pittsburgh Zoo insisted that the exhibit met all required safety standards, and had passed 35 federal inspections since it opened. Public opinion was divided. Some blamed the zoo for not taking action after repeated safety warnings, while others argued that Maddox's mother should have been more cautious. The case was eventually settled out of court, with the terms remaining confidential. Following the tragedy, the zoo made changes. The viewing platform where Maddox had fallen was removed, and the African painted dogs were relocated to other facilities. The exhibit was later replaced with a new one featuring cheetahs, but criticism remained, particularly regarding how the zoo handled the situation. Many felt it unfairly placed the blame on Elizabeth, who was already grieving the loss of her child. Despite their grief, Maddox's parents found a way to honor his memory. Since he loved toy trucks, the family started a donation drive, collecting toy trucks to give to children in need during the holiday season. The initiative touched many hearts, and thousands of people from across the country participated, ensuring that Maddox's love for trucks lived on in a meaningful way. While nothing could undo the tragedy, the incident led to broader discussions about safety in public spaces. It also raised difficult questions about responsibility, whether institutions like zoos should do more to prevent accidents, and how families navigate the unthinkable loss of a child. Maddox's story is one of immense sorrow, but his family has worked to keep his memory alive. Through their efforts, they not only bring joy to other children, but also remind others of the importance of safety, awareness, and the lasting impact of a single moment. November 28, 1981, Daniel Dutoit, a 63-year-old South African astronomer, stood before an audience to deliver a lecture. The topic was a somber one, the unpredictability of life and its natural companion, death. With this lecture on the unpredictable arrival of man's mortality came an unbelievable and tragic demonstration. Born on December 15, 1917 in Springfontein, South Africa, Daniel Stephanus Dutoit had an early fascination with the heavens. He pursued his education at Hoërskool Centraal in Bloemfontein, before embarking on his astronomical journey in 1936 at the Boyden Observatory, then administered by Harvard College Observatory. Dutoit eventually became the chief assistant to the director of the observatory. The observatory, located in Mazelsport, Free State, served as a fertile ground for remarkable astronomical discoveries during that era. Dutoit's contributions to the field of astronomy were nothing short of extraordinary, particularly in the discovery of comets. Between 1941 and 1945, he discovered 5 comets, a feat that solidified his reputation among his peers. The first of these, 57P/Dutoit-Nurmin-Delport, was found during the meticulous examination of photographic plates taken using the observatory's telescopes. This process involved painstakingly scanning images exposed on high-speed blue plates, ensuring the quality and accuracy of each observation. His subsequent discoveries included 66P/du Toit and 79P/du Toit-Hartley, both of which continue to be of interest to modern astronomers. Comet 79P, for instance, has undergone significant changes since its discovery in 1945, including the fragmentation of its nucleus, which led to its rediscovery in 1982 after years of uncertainty. After World War II, in 1946, du Toit shifted his career path, leaving the observatory for work in the building industry. Despite this transition, his legacy in astronomy remained. However, life dealt him a difficult hand when an accident forced him into early retirement after he lost a leg. Yet it was not a tragic injury, or even the peril of his earlier stargazing that claimed him. Instead, the twist of fate came in the simplest form, a peppermint. Du Toit's reputation as a significant astronomer persisted. On September 29, 1981, the 63-year-old former astronomer was delivering a lecture. It was a heavy topic, focusing on life's unpredictability. As he concluded his thought-provoking address, he left the audience with a chilling reminder that death could come at any time. But as the audience sat with this somber warning, du Toit engaged in a mundane activity. What followed next was an act almost too surreal and ironic to believe. The former astronomer unwrapped a piece of peppermint candy and popped it into his mouth. He instantly began to choke. Despite immediate attempts to save him, the mint became lodged in his throat, cutting short his life in a sudden and dramatic twist that mirrored the very theme he had just discussed. The circumstances surrounding Daniel du Toit's death evoked both shock and a sense of bitter irony. Here was a man who spent years uncovering the mysteries of the cosmos, tracing paths of comets as they traversed the endless expanse of space. In his final moments, as if scripted by fate itself, he embodied the very truth he spoke. It was ironic that his demise was brought about by a humble mint, which truly illustrated his last words. 2002, Guillermo Lopez Langarica, widely known as El Kanaka, was arrested for driving under the influence in Guadalajara, Mexico. But his story didn't end there. That day, a drunk Lopez Langarica gave a hilarious interview. Years later, in 2007, the interview became viral on YouTube due to the man's eccentric behavior and memorable phrases that resonated with audiences. The video spread like wildfire, garnering millions of views and catapulting Lopez Langarica into the limelight. But the man's fame was short-lived. A year later, his life tragically ended in another drunken accident. In the 2002 video, Lopez Langarica, in an alcohol-induced state, vehemently protested his arrest, insisting that, although he was indeed driving under the influence, he hadn't been in an accident. He accused the police of stealing 50,000 pesos and declared himself the son of a supposed high-ranking official, the president of an organization he called Kanaka, which didn't exist. His claims were, however, unfounded and even absurd, but coupled with his slurred yet passionate delivery, they struck a chord with viewers, turning lines like, "Write this down," and "They tied me like a pig" instant classics within Mexican internet culture during the era of the so-called old internet. Despite this newfound fame, Lopez Langarica remained a figure whose life was marked by hardships and contradictions. He was known as a good-natured cynic, a chatterbox, a party-goer, and someone who loved sports. Yet the viral fame that brought him recognition was something he never fully embraced. He disliked being approached by strangers seeking autographs and regretted the infamy that followed him. On September 25, 2008, just a year after he achieved fame, the unexpected occurred. Lopez Langarica was run over by a heavily intoxicated driver, a woman named Silvia Teresa Borbon Valenzuela, in Guadalajara. The accident was as sudden as it was tragic. Lopez Langarica, who had faced public scrutiny and laughter for his drunken antics, was ironically sober at the time of his death. The driver's bizarre claim that someone had placed the body under her car added an unsettling element to the incident, but it did not alter the grim reality. Lopez Langarica died on the scene, his life ending in an instant, under bitterly ironic circumstances. The accident made national news, sparking shock and debate. For many, the tragic twist was too obvious to ignore. A man who rose to fame for his comical, intoxicated confrontation with the police was killed by an intoxicated driver. Yep. This unexpected and twisted end was yet another proof of the cruel unpredictability of fate, an irony that left many speechless. Tributes flooded social media and YouTube, where users posted farewell messages and shared the video that had initially brought him fame. T-shirts with his catchphrases and other memorabilia appeared in markets, cementing his status as a part of Mexican pop culture. His legacy, encapsulated in parodies, remixes, and references, became both a source of laughter and reflection. He was immortalized as San Kanaka by some, with claims of ghostly apparitions adding a surreal conclusion to his tale. Lopez Langarica, the man who was tied like a pig and claimed as the son of the president of Kanaka, served as a reminder of how easily the lines between humor and tragedy could blur. Behind the viral clips and humorous anecdotes was a man who lived, struggled, and ultimately met an untimely end. Known as the guru of running, James Fuller Fix devoted his life to promoting the health benefits of jogging and was credited with helping ignite America's fitness revolution in the 1970s. Yet his death was marked by an irony that resonated deeply with the public and sparked debates in the medical and fitness communities, an unforeseen conclusion that seemed to challenge everything he had stood for. Born on April 23, 1932 in New York City, Fix graduated from Trinity School and Oberlin College. His father, Calvin Fix, was an editor at Time magazine. Despite his intellectual background, Fix's early life was not marked by health or athleticism. In fact, up until his mid-30s, Fix led an unhealthy lifestyle. He smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day, indulged in rich foods, and weighed 214 pounds. The turning point came at age 35 when he decided to overhaul his habits and create a very different life for himself. As a result, he quit smoking and started running. The result was astonishing. Within a few years, Fix transformed himself into a paragon of fitness. He lost over 60 pounds, built a lean physique, and began running up to 80 miles a week, participating in marathons, and inspiring countless others through his example. In 1977, he published The Complete Book of Running, which became an instant bestseller and solidified his reputation as an advocate for the power of physical fitness. Fix was credited as one of the creators of the fitness movement in America. The Complete Book of Running sold over 1 million copies. The content of the book highlighted the benefits of running and declared that regular exercise could significantly extend life expectancy. Fix spent the following years of his life writing and speaking passionately about the benefits of exercise, arguing that an active lifestyle was key to a long and healthy life. Fix's beliefs, however, were built on a strong conviction that exercise alone was sufficient protection against heart disease. He often cited theories that marathon runners developed immunity from heart issues and downplayed the importance of diet. Although Fix knew that his father had died of a heart attack at the age of 43 after an earlier attack at 35, he trusted that running and abstaining from smoking would safeguard him from the same fate. He did not routinely seek medical checkups and reportedly refused cardiovascular stress tests, even when advised by friends and experts. His refusal to know the exact state of his health might have pointed to an underlying fear. Maybe he was afraid to find out for sure. On July 20th, 1984, Fix, aged 52, set out for his daily run along Vermont Route 15 in Hartford. Partway through, he collapsed and died beside the road. A passing motorcyclist discovered his lifeless body beside the road. An autopsy performed by Vermont's chief medical examiner, Dr. Eleanor McQuillan, revealed that Fix had severe atherosclerosis. His coronary arteries were significantly blocked. One artery was 95% obstructed, another 85%, and a third 70%. Despite his dedication to running and apparent physical fitness, the underlying disease had progressed undetected, leading to a sudden and fatal heart attack. The revelation of Fix's blocked arteries raised questions about the beliefs he had championed, while his transformation from an unhealthy smoker to a fitness icon had inspired many. The fact that he died while practicing what he preached was an ironic contradiction. His death came to show that exercise, while beneficial, was not a cure-all. Factors such as genetics, diet, and comprehensive medical care also played critical roles. In the years following his death, Kenneth Cooper, an exercise physiologist and friend of Fix, conducted a review of his medical history and risk factors. Cooper's findings confirmed that Fix's genetic predisposition, his father's early death from heart disease, combined with his history of smoking and high levels of stress, as well as his somewhat deficient nutrition, contributed significantly to his fatal condition. Cooper speculated that even though running might have extended Fix's life beyond what it might have been otherwise, it could not overcome the advanced state of his heart disease. Despite the tragic end, Jim Fix's legacy endures. He helped Americans understand that running and jogging were vital parts of a healthy lifestyle. While exercise remains a powerful tool for improving physical and mental well-being, Fix's death reminds us that it must be complemented by awareness of genetic risks, proper medical screenings, and a holistic approach to health. He thought he'd gotten away with murder, literally. But just as Joseph McKinnon was finishing what he started, something else happened. something far beyond his control. In the end, it wasn't law enforcement or neighbors who stopped him. It was karma, arriving swiftly and without mercy. 60-year-old Joseph McKinnon lived in the quiet town of Trenton, South Carolina, with his longtime partner, Patricia Ruth Denny, age 65. A relatively unremarkable presence in the small community, Joseph gave little reason for suspicion. There were no known incidents of domestic violence at their residence, no calls to police, and no red flags that would hint at the grim events that would unfold one Saturday morning in May. That morning, as neighbors saw Joseph working in the yard, few gave it a second thought. He told one of them the hole he was digging was for a water feature. But in truth, the real reason behind the freshly dug pit was far more sinister. As Saturday progressed, Patricia failed to report to her job at the Mount Vintage Golf Course. Known for her reliability, her absence triggered immediate concern. Co-workers began calling and texting as early as 7:30 a.m., but none of their messages were answered. Meanwhile, outside her home, Joseph continued working over the grave he had dug the day before. According to the investigation conducted by the Edgefield County Sheriff's Office, Joseph had attacked Patricia inside their shared home. There were signs of a struggle, blood evidence later confirmed to be hers, and signs that the house had recently been cleaned. Patricia had been struck in the face, though the autopsy later confirmed that her cause of death was strangulation. After killing her, Joseph bound her body with tape, wrapped it in black trash bags, and dragged it through the home to his truck, which remained parked in the yard. From there, he drove the body to the back garden where the shallow pit awaited. Joseph was nearly done burying Patricia when everything unraveled. Neighbors noticed him lying motionless in the yard just before 10 a.m., prompting a call to emergency services. A neighbor attempted chest compressions before first responders arrived, but by the time deputies and medical crews reached the scene, Joseph was already dead. With no immediate signs of trauma, authorities initially suspected a natural cause, later confirmed to be a cardiac event, an apparent heart attack. But the investigation didn't end there. With Patricia still unaccounted for, deputies began searching the property more thoroughly. That's when they uncovered the trash bags in a freshly filled grave. The bags were carefully unwrapped, and Patricia's body was found inside. Bound and hidden beneath the soil Joseph had been feverishly shoveling before collapsing. The discovery prompted a full forensic investigation. The pit, the truck, the cleaned house, and the timeline all aligned with witness statements, enabling law enforcement to piece together the final hours of the couple's lives. The results of both autopsies solidified what investigators had already suspected. Joseph had murdered Patricia, then died while attempting to hide her body. For the town of Trenton, a place with a population of barely 200, the incident was deeply unsettling. Residents expressed shock, unease, and sorrow. Some worried about safety, while others struggled to comprehend how something so brutal could happen right next door. Among those devastated was Patricia's twin sister, Pamela Briggs, who described her sibling as energetic, kind, and beloved by everyone she met. According to Pamela, part of her was gone forever, taken in a moment of violence no one had seen coming. In the end, Joseph McKinnon's attempt to cover up a murder was haunted not by intervention, but by the failure of his own heart.
I guess I'll have
What
to
began
get
as a
back.
daring and heartfelt mission to raise funds for a noble cause ended in tragedy, when a Brazilian priest's attempt to bring attention to a project close to his heart backfired in a way no one could have foreseen. In April 2008, Adelir Antonio de Carli, 41, was a Roman Catholic priest widely known in Brazil as the Balloon Priest. He was born on February 8, 1967, and raised under difficult circumstances. Following his parents' divorce, Adelir lived with his mother in Paraguay until her death when he was just 15. Returning to Brazil, he worked various jobs. First as a tire repairman alongside his father, then at his uncle's gas station, and also painting tablecloths to make ends meet. Despite his humble beginnings, he was an excellent student and known for his quiet demeanor.
But going to bed
Unexpectedly, he
is
joined a
not going to
seminary
get
in
those
Paranagua
rules.
and was ordained in August 2003. By 2004, he had become head of his own parish, where he developed a deep commitment to social work. One of Adelir's major undertakings was the creation of
And
the
when I get
Passport,
home, I'm going
a
to have
rest
to
and
wait till my
spiritual
hair
support area for
dries.
truckers passing through the port city of Paranagua. He held masses in the port's patio and took an active role in defending the rights of marginalized citizens, including the homeless. His activism led to multiple arrests, including the city's municipal security secretary.
The hot dogs
The
are
same
in
year,
the
he
fridge.
protested the removal of small diners from the port area, successfully
I'll
halting their
just
eviction.
stick with my
Seeking
cereal.
to raise awareness and funding for the pastoral,
I
Adelir
think
planned to
I'll
break the
just
world record
put it
for
all
cluster
go
balloon
in the
flight time,
store.
19
Stick with my
hours suspended in the
cereal
air.
and my
Although
oatmeal
he took
and
survival
my
and
ice
mountain
cream.
climbing courses
They're
in
my
preparation,
favorites anyway.
his history with aviation was uneven.
Then
He had
I'll
previously
worry
been expelled
about
from a
the
paragliding
hot
course
dogs
in
when all
Curitiba
that's done.
for refusing to attend theory classes and disobeying his instructor. Still, in January 2008, he completed a successful 4-hour flight from Ampere to
That's
Argentina,
what I'll do.
using 600 balloons and reaching an altitude of over
Salted
17,000
and
feet.
that when
On April 20th, 2008, Adelir made his second and final attempt. After celebrating Mass that morning, he lifted off from Paranagua in a chair strapped to 1,000 brightly colored balloons.
to go
Though the
anywhere.
weather was rainy and overcast, he pressed forward, equipped with a parachute, waterproof gear, a global positioning system, satellite and mobile phone, a flotation device, and enough food and water for 5 days. His intended destination was Dourados, over 700 kilometers away, where his brother Marcos lived. Early on, he ascended much higher than expected, reportedly up to 19,000 or even 20,000 feet. 8 hours into the flight and about 30 miles off the coast, he contacted the Paranagua Port Authority and passed along his coordinates. He also reported being very cold and struggling with his global positioning system. It was his last known communication. That night, search operations began involving the Brazilian Navy, Air Force, and local firefighters. Although debris from the balloon cluster was found floating in the ocean days later, the search was called off by April 29th as hopes of finding him alive faded. It wasn't until July 4th, 2008, that the lower half of a human body was spotted by tugboat workers roughly 100 kilometers from the city of Mackay. Based on the clothing and other materials, authorities suspected it was Adelir. Deoxyribonucleic acid tests confirmed the identity weeks later. His remains were returned to Paranagua, where churchgoers greeted him with
What the fuck
applause.
happened to his
A
top
memorial
half?
mass was held in his honor, and he was buried in a special chapel. Though his life ended in tragedy, Adelir's legacy lived on, marked by a bold attempt to serve his community. It was December 2002 in New York City. Sean Doyle, a bartender, was out for a night of drinks with his friend Michael Wright and Wright's girlfriend. What started as a casual evening quickly took a dark turn. As the night went on, Michael became convinced that Sean was flirting with his girlfriend. Whether fueled by alcohol or deep-seated jealousy, his frustration grew into something far worse. At some point, the argument escalated into a physical fight. Witnesses recalled Sean shouting, "No, don't break my legs," before things spiraled beyond control.
Oh.
In a fit of rage, Michael did something unthinkable. He shoved Sean into an open manhole in the street. The drop was about 18 feet, but the real danger wasn't the fall itself.
Yeah.
Below was a flooded steam tunnel filled with scalding water that had reached deadly temperatures. A broken steam main had turned the space beneath into a
well.
rolling death trap.
I'm gonna take a nap.
Horrifying is that Sean
This
didn't
weather
die
has
immediately.
got me
He
kind of.
survived
It's
the fall and was
raining
still standing
outside
when
and
the rescue
nasty.
crews arrived.
If you guys
Below,
are in
his
the
screams
same
echoed
kind
the
of
tunnel as he
weather
begged for help,
I'm in,
but no one could reach him.
take a
15
nap
inside was
and put
unbearable.
everything off.
Firefighters
Enjoy
and
your
paramedics tried
day.
everything, but
Love
the
you
steam was
guys.
too intense. The temperature in the tunnel exceeded 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and the water was hot enough